Hello, hello everyone. Welcome back to Spar and Brawl. My name is Kam Kompany, and I'm joined as always by my sparring partner. We really have I always say this that we have a packed show for you today, but today is extra dope. I'm really excited about the first story especially. So, Sam, why don't you tell everybody what we have in store for today?
Oh, sure. I think first we're going to talk about quite interesting and, as far as I was concerned, enjoyable debate from between the three people from America's left-wing politics. I think we're going to discuss that for some time because that was really interesting. Then we're going to talk about some geopolitical and perhaps financial stuff, which is our typical topics. And then we're going to talk about some quite interesting updates on COVID and EU-UK relations. I think that's the structure today.
Yeah, that's it. And we also have the story about the two cops who were apparently involved in the Capitol riot in the response, and they have committed suicide. So we're going to discuss what is out there, what information is already out there, and what that could mean. But all right, Sam, so let's jump into our first story. So Brianna, Joe Gray, and Sam Seder, did I say their names correctly?
I think so.
You know them a bit more.
Yeah.
And had a debate.
Sam Seder. I'm not sure. I always forget because everybody calls him Sam. But Brianna Joy Gray. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, we got it right. Had a debate about forced to vote on the Bad Fate podcast. And it was moderated by Virgil.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but would you say he was moderator or he was also in part of the debate?
No, he
you're
definitely wasn't part of the debate. He kind of had like a semi-moderator role in a way. And I don't know his last name unless his last name is actually Texas. Is that the case?
I think so. Okay. I thought it's Virgil Tex. I don't know. Maybe it's a pseudonym or something. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that even adds to it. I wouldn't be surprised. And so at the end of this video, we're going to look at some of the comments that people posted in the comment box of that video. And they're absolutely hilarious. It was my favorite part. But okay, so let's get into it. So first, I watched this because you told me that you saw it. And, it's about forced to vote. So I'm interested in that. If not, I don't really watch either of them. So Brianna Joy Gray, I just found out about her recently through the Bernie Sanders campaign, and now she has this podcast. And Sam Seder, so YouTube recommended him to me like last year, and I immediately stopped liking him because the first video that I watched about him was this video where he was criticizing Jimmy Dore, and he was criticizing him about being on Fox News and saying that that's not good, which I don't agree with. And the second one was about how and Jimmy Dore didn't know this like thing about tax, and he made a big deal about it. So I never watched him again, and YouTube didn't really recommend him to me. But so he showed up here, and I liked some of the arguments that he made, though I didn't totally not like all of his arguments. So to get going, I wanted to say what I think is the main disagreement between them, then throw it back to you, and then after that we can talk about a bunch of other interesting things that happened. So from what I understand, their disagreement is that, so Brianna Joy Gray likes the forced to vote strategy, tactic, as well as the issue. So she really argues that, yes, we should have asked for Medicare for all here. And Sam, his first thing that he doesn't agree with is that, sure, I like the strategy. The strategy is not bad, but I don't think that should be the issue. And on top of that, he says that when he found out that Jimmy was the person really behind this, he says, then I really didn't like it, which I find to be ridiculous as well. But I got that to be the main argument, and I guess the other main argument is kind of...
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wasn't clear. I didn't quite understand.
Yeah.
What you said, the main argument was that he didn't like this strategy?
Their main disagreement, is that Brianna likes everything about it. Let's put it that way. She liked the strategy and the issue. Whereas he says, sure.
And the ask.
And the ask, exactly. He says, sure, that could be a good strategy. That is a good strategy and that it is maybe used and all that. But the ask, exactly, should not be this. So from what I understood, this was one of their primary disagreements. And after that is also Sam says, I don't like Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore is not a good person, and this issue is all about him. So that's why I don't like this issue either. And I think the other,
To be fair,
no, he said that.
he didn't say he didn't say. I mean, he did say he doesn't like Jimmy Dore and stuff, but he said that Jimmy Dore has a different interest in mind, which is destruction of.
Yeah.
Like that's Sam Seder's view, that it's a destruction of Democratic Party in favor of a third party. You know, that's the thing that he was pointing out, which I don't agree with. But if that's true, then that's a real issue. You know what I mean? The motivation behind the people who are behind the.
Yeah, so I guess just like TYT kind of, at least like Anna, Anna in her tweet that we showed before, she was much more like clear. She was like, oh no, I like the issue, I just don't like Jimmy Dore. But to me, it seems like it's the same thing. So you're saying that, okay, if you think the people behind it, their motives are not right, then that is a good enough reason for you to, not associate with this particular strategy.
I think that's what Sam Seder was saying. Like he used the car analogy, that the driver and all that. I think that was his main disagreement. That was, I think they had two major disagreements. One was that the motives behind the people leading the movement. Second was that he was saying that there was a good chance that the establishment Democrats would have called their bluff. And then they would have been damaged more in media, and they would have lost the support of their base, because they would be the ones that are freezing a Democratic Congress to go ahead with reversing Trump's agenda. I don't agree with this argument. I don't think this is what would have happened. However, again, that's a genuine, it's possible. It's certainly possible. And frankly, if I have some agreements with Sam Seder, it's here that the idea that necessarily American people would, rise up over this, not just, by the way, Medicare for all the issues that I think David Sirota outlined very eloquently. In that case, I'm not quite sure if American people would be. So, there's a good chance that you can get basically smeared on by mainstream TV, and it might work.
Yeah, no, okay, so that second argument, I totally agree, and I think it's a bit exaggerated, just because the fact that Americans are for Medicare for all and they support that. I think some other conclusions were drawn, especially from Brianna and other, and how supportive people would be suddenly for such a strategy. But just coming back to the first thing, even if Sam says, I don't like the motives and all that about Jimmy behind it, I still don't find that to be enough, especially in the beginning, if you actually think that the idea is good, for not having engaged on it more, because other people could have become, more prominent. And he kept on saying it was all about Jimmy, and he was on all the shows and everywhere where like debates were taking place. And that's because, well, I guess he came up with idea in the beginning, so he's going to be everywhere talking about it. He's
popular. I mean, even in that debate, Brianna pointed out that somebody else came up originally with the idea. Jimmy popularized it, and then that famous LA player, I think football player, sort of brought it to national attention through tweets. But I completely disagree. I don't think Jimmy's after. I do think Jimmy's after creating a third party now, but I don't think he would. If Democrats did this, it wouldn't make him unhappy. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. He's not somebody who's been paid by a group of secret donors to create a third party to destroy Democratic Party. I think that's absurd. But if you believe that, then of course it makes sense for you not to join, because if you don't trust somebody when they tell you that I'm going to even make you rich, or if I'm going to act in your self-interest, when you don't trust them, then that's the whole issue is, the whole thing is undermined in a way, fundamentally. But yeah, I personally, I don't think his objections, while they could be valid, I don't think in this case are.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I do think his personal animosity with Jimmy Dore does taint his view of the issue. I like to point out, I think, to be honest, again, to be fair to Sam Seder, I don't think he was one of the few that actually originally supported the idea. And he wasn't one of the people who shat on the idea so much on Twitter or on YouTube. Not, at least I didn't see. I think somebody like Nomoki Kunz, somebody who goes on Sam Seder show all the time, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, perhaps even, somebody like that would have been a better choice of debate with Brianna.
But they wouldn't have the debate.
Was kind of middle of the...
No, that's a very good point. Yeah, no, that's a very good point that you pointed that out, and I think that's why there was at least some value to the argument. But that kind of makes it maybe another disagreement that they had was that in Brianna's, I feel like she was saying that no, you should like this no matter what, and that why were you not more supportive of it, and you should have loved that idea. And it's up to him if he likes it or not, or how much he likes it. And you're right, he didn't seem like he went out of his way, at least for I've seen, like Cenk, to really shit all over this idea. And then just your point about the animosity towards Jimmy Dore, I mean, that is really insane. The video that I mentioned in the beginning about his criticism of Jimmy Dore being on Fox News, I wanted to find that, but as soon as I put their names together, there's like, he has so many videos that he made on Jimmy Dore. I was like, okay, forget about this. And they had their debate in 2016.
That's what put me off Sam Seder, because to be honest, a lot of his content is great and you agree with it. But when it came to Jimmy Dore, and Jimmy Dore, there's a time Jimmy Dore calls him on his show. And I highly recommend everybody listening that, because it does seem like, oh, they're trying to patch things up and stuff. But then after that, he goes on because when he made that phone call, I would assume that, the reverse could be true too. Like Sam Seder could make a phone call to Jimmy, or directly talk to him. But instead, he keeps on making these videos that are, in my view, very smug and very, it feels cheap shots. For example, he's very keen on pointing out that Jimmy Dore doesn't understand, for example, the way Supreme Court works, or that, or this. First of all, everybody has mistakes in terms of predicting the future in political, commentating. Secondly, the way he does it is very smug. I would say I agree with you that I think Brianna at some points in the debate was very volatile. It was not, you prefer debate that is a bit calmer or more exact, but he's, he wouldn't let her finish a sentence with snide comments in the middle, right? And those things, I mean, I have this fault as well. This is a big fault of mine. When somebody, just keeps doing a snide comment in the middle of your, it does irritate you a lot and makes you a bit more angry, and your passion somewhat goes up. So because I kept saying, just please let her finish one, sometimes in the beginning, especially. Later on, he stopped, I think, doing that so much. But that I think that added to the whole tension of the debate.
It's funny you say that.
And by the way, I like to point out, Dore keeps making fun of Jimmy Dore for not knowing what would have happened in Supreme Court and not knowing taxes stuff. He himself, in this debate, it was clear that he had no understanding of how the election of the Speaker of the House works. Virgil and Brianna corrected him on multiple times on the fact that a Republican could not become a leader unless Democrats vote for him. Something, by the way, which I was not clear on until 2 weeks ago, when one of the commentators was kind enough to leave us a link and explanation. So again, I'm not saying that this is something that everybody should know, or if you don't know, you shouldn't talk about politics ever. I used to talk about politics before knowing that. But if you're, if there are faults like that in your own knowledge, then you shouldn't make fun of others so much, or you shouldn't undermine others through this tactic so much, I think.
Yeah, no, that's exactly, Sam. So let me add a few things. So those comments that you actually mentioned, another one of our viewers or someone who viewed our video also posted the same thing yesterday. So at the end, I wanted to go over those as well. But I agree with one thing. I don't agree with another thing. I disagree with another thing that you say. Towards Jimmy Dore, and yeah, the obsession that he suddenly has with like, oh, you don't know how this part of the tax code works, or like, this whatever Supreme Court. And him himself, you just pointed out, he didn't know how this part of the voting worked. And I mean, I don't blame them. How could you? But then, yeah, attacking people on that, he says that Jimmy Dore didn't know about filibustering. I mean, I doubt it. But yeah, when he talks about this, it is very demeaning. But with Brianna in the debate, I didn't get the impression, actually. It's interesting that you say that. And people talk about this in the comments, so maybe we'll discuss it again. But I didn't feel like he was interrupting her that much. And that, they were having a debate at that point. So I didn't feel like he was interrupting her too much or saying a lot of, shitty comments here and there. I don't know. That's kind of my impression.
No, I think it was a long debate, and I think in the beginning he not interrupting, but a snide comments type thing. Like you're saying, yeah, that would work. Yeah, that's out of the. I can't remember a specific example because I watched a week ago. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misrepresenting stuff in my memory, but it wasn't so much interruption. It was just a snide comments, or she would say, like, she would ask him, this is something I remember, she would ask him, what would be your ask, or what would be your strategy, and he would go on this long rambling thing, and it felt like me just politician talk sometimes. But again, I watched it over a week ago, so I apologize if I'm misrepresenting anyone.
I mean, before I get into this thing about the strategy and the issue that I wanted to say, this just reminded me of, he said one of the funniest things in the beginning. So he's like, yeah, I heard about this idea, and then I went and spoke to a few of my sources about it. I was like, that's such a weird thing to hear. You never hear that in like progressive media. So
yeah.
I was like,
I
sources?
love, by the way, how he said, I can't disclose my sources, and it felt like,
I was like, just stop talking.
Snowden?
That's so cringeworthy. Please don't. That part was so cringe, from the word source. And then when Brianna asked them like twice, I wouldn't even asked because it was just the stupidest sounding thing. And then it's like, we all have our sources.
Nice.
Some are on the record, some are off. I had no idea where he was going with that. That was just funny.
And by the way, there was something I realized in watching it this time, and it broke my heart somewhat. Gore Vidal, who's my political, like, he's the hero of mine. I can't think of anybody who's closer.
Okay, we should make some videos about him
than he is politically. Yeah, Gore Vidal is just. I mean, it would be like there's so much out there on him that it would be a waste, perhaps.
There's a reality asserts itself on him.
Anyway.
The show from the Real News Network.
Yeah.
They have
really?
one of those.
Right.
99% sure.
That's the thing. I didn't know he had shows with Sam Seder, and that kind of broke my heart a little. That I never got to see him, but Sam Seder did.
No way.
But that's just a personal pity.
On the radio or YouTube?
On the radio. I think on the radio, because he passed away about 10 years ago. So I don't know if it was on YouTube yet, but I'm not quite clear. But yeah, I realized that, and it just he's Gore Vidal and Hitchens are two people that I'll never forgive myself for not trying hard enough to see them when they were alive.
Yeah.
Although they say never meet your heroes, so you never know.
That's true. Okay, let's move. I want to make a few other points and discuss a few other things. So one is that I find this to be unfair. Whenever some people agree with the strategy or the ask and being like, okay, asking for Medicare for all like this, for forced to vote, is not the best thing to ask for. It's just maybe too much. Maybe if you ask for something else, you could get it, and another strategy would work better for Medicare for all. So when people say that about the strategy, or for in the long term even achieving Medicare for all, it's really unfair to say, oh, you're against Medicare for all, which seems to be A lot of people think this way. So I mean, I think that's really, really unfair.
I don't think Jimmy Dore and stuff, they don't even say you're not for Medicare for all. They say you're not a real, you're not really fighting. You're just a careerist. I think it's even more, it's a more fundamental insult in some ways.
But maybe
And
to
I agree
other
with him,
people,
to
to
be
general
honest.
people, to like, I guess, yeah.
Oh,
Not to
the public?
politicians.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course. Oh, of course, of course. Sorry, I thought you mean AOC type things. And I really highly recommend you watch, and everybody watches the another video from Bad Faith podcast with Richard Wolff. I forget the exact title, but it has soft corruption in it. The something soft corruption, and yeah, it talks about that you don't, because Kyle Kulinski keeps saying that the Justice Democrats aren't corrupt because they don't take big money from big corporations. But you don't have to take big money. You have to be a careerist, to be honest, to be corrupt. And I think a lot of them are careerists. That, by the way, I am in some ways careerist as well in my life. So I don't like say they're humans, but when they talk about corruption, they don't mean literally getting a bag of money from someone. Sometimes it means you trying to keep a relationship with certain people, safe for future purposes.
No, I definitely agree with that, and I don't myself want to make that criticism too much, so I don't turn out to be a hypocrite. But that is a good point about the difference between that also being a careerist, and then it really depends to what degree you go for. But the other thing is that they're politicians, so really their career should be about making the best for their constituents. That's kind of their objective. I mean, it's a special, when you work for public, it's a special kind of career. You kind of have to accept that it's not about you, whereas all other walks of life are kind of about you.
No, make the best for your constituents, not make the best for yourself and pose as something else for your constituents. But I get your point, and I like to point out that anybody who I have criticized, if you pay me significant amount of money, I will change my opinion like that. It's no problem. It won't be just feel free.
Okay.
Very cheap, like
tell me what you think about this. Tell me what you think about this. Okay. So Brianna kind of argues this is why she thinks this issue was the good one to ask right now. So she says, look, everybody mentions this in the left, that there are these polls that show that Medicare for all is like the #1 issue, or like a very important issue for a lot of Americans. And then, so she takes kind of that idea and then also says that, look, so many people have lost their jobs during the pandemic, and therefore they have lost their health insurance. So she says like around 15 million people. So she's like, this is why healthcare is right now the most important issue and why it's so important. And then I even feel like she says that a lot of the deaths and the cases in the United States are due to the fact that there's no healthcare. Now, I don't 100%, if you don't have healthcare. I don't think she's, well, she mentions, that's what I get the feeling for. I think that's the impression that she gets.
That, like when you have such a bad healthcare system and people don't go to doctors enough, and people's health concerns are, it just makes the society as a whole weaker in terms of physique. So
I don't know. I mean, I think if even the states had amazing healthcare, I'm sure a lot of people would be better off once they went and got their service. I can just imagine once they get treatment, and then all these insane bills and working with insurance companies, all that. But even if there was Medicare for all, if there was Trump and everything else was the same, and the whole thing with the masks and not taking it seriously, I doubt there would have been too much difference in that situation, but in the situation in the States. But let's put that aside. She also thinks that right now, because of that, Medicare for all is important in people's minds, and they're making this association of like, oh wow, there's a pandemic and we don't even have free healthcare. But I don't think people in their heads, they make that kind of association. And even though Medicare for all is a very important issue for them, it seems that other issues trump it, such as beating Trump. Biden was one of the people who was outright against Medicare for all, and he still won. So I do agree that it's important. I just don't think the association and how Brianna sees it in her head, I don't think that's that widespread in the States. You know, if you ask them about coronavirus for people, I don't think Medicare for all would come up a lot in the conversation if you talk to, you know, general people.
I I agree. I mean, I don't know, to be honest, because actually I was gonna say I completely agree, but then I remembered, for example, the comments we had about Jimmy Dore stuff, that I said that I don't like how angry he gets and stuff, and people were like, well, if you were in that position, you would be. And I do, and media and even YouTube and whatever, they give a very narrow view of the society. So maybe there are actually, you know, who would have thought there are shaman right-wingers that are going to storm the Capitol. You know, just a couple of weeks ago, if you ask, there is a shaman who, I don't know, there was a great, by the way, documentary on the people who stormed the Capitol a couple of weeks ago. And if I don't think anybody would have thought these people even exist, some of them, you know. So there may be a large segment of American population that is maybe not necessarily, they don't know the term Medicare for all, but if you health issues, they would be easily mobilized, or, you know, something like that. So
no, 100% I agree with that. I'm just saying, when you talk about COVID, that's not, I don't think that's the first association that people make in their heads when you talk about the hardships of COVID and everything this time.
But when because your insurance is connected to your employers, the people who have lost their jobs may connect it a bit more, you know. They may because they understand that now that they don't have a job, if they get COVID, there is no help for them.
No.
Although Biden is announcing that, you know. But but at first sight and generally, and I mentioned it in the very beginning, I agree that I just don't think necessarily if they did force the vote, if Pelosi called their bluff, I don't know how would have the media game would have played out, you know. And I like with Jeremy Corbyn, that example keeps coming to my mind, because Jeremy Corbyn was somebody, in my view, that was as close as to a flawless character, you know, had fought against race, anti-Semitism, everything, you know, like his record was perfectly clean. But the media, you know, years and years of badgering, you know, they can destroy you. They can destroy your public image.
Yeah, but
so I don't know how would have the media game like that.
Okay, I want to come back to the media, but there's one thing I don't quite, I think, understand. When you're talking about called their bluff, so called their bluff that they would have not voted for Nancy Pelosi, but for somebody else to be the House Speaker. Like
they would have voted, let's say, for Barbara Lee.
But why would Nancy that be a bluff necessarily?
No, but because it's a bluff, because in a sense that, you're right, it's not really a bluff because they would do it. So let's say they did that, force the vote would have happened, right? And Nancy Pelosi wouldn't have become the speaker. So you would have a week or a month until they keep all the alliances shift and all the negotiations takes place. And during that month or week or whatever it is, the mainstream media would certainly attack the progressives for being the ones that are basically, they would say they are attempting to stop the Democratic Congress, and they are allowing Trump's policies to continue in this. They are ruining this great moment, you know. So that would have how the media would have covered it, I think, you know.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with that. 100%. So that's, I was actually going to just say that. So Brianna, by the way, yeah, go ahead.
No, I just was going to say this is all how the media would have covered it. Yeah. This is not something I agree with.
Yeah, no, that is also how I think the media would have covered it. So Brianna, she thought it was different. She was like, oh, once it goes to the next vote and stuff, the media will be there. And she was like, who do you think people will support? Nancy Pelosi, that most Democrats and Americans hate, or AOC and the Quad? And it's like, yes, most Americans, maybe they hate Nancy Pelosi if you like ask them, but if you think in this dynamic they will aggressively be involved, she used the word aggressively, and support AOC, and then the media. So yeah, I definitely didn't think what she thought, how that would then pick up momentum in the media and with people everywhere. I thought that was very disillusional.
No,
And
it
actually,
would have
Sam,
picked up.
huh?
I think. Go.
No,
Sorry.
and Sam Seder says that this is what, when it's a fantasy. What's the word? It's like it's fantastical. And I think I would
Yeah,
agree. I mean, yeah, the
fantastic.
media will pick up. I don't know if that's what you were going to say. The media will pick up, but the media might pick up, A, not to the extent that you want, not in the way that you want, and then for that to reach the wider public, I highly doubt it that quickly like that.
Yeah, no. I think the wider public would have heard about it, and they would have been actually like angry. But the media doesn't care about the wider public, neither the Democratic Party,
But I mean,
especially right
even the
after they
wider
got into
public,
elected office.
even the wider
Like, what
public,
can they do? Let's say they mobilize. They can write letters, and they ignore their letters. And then for the next 5 years, you would have a sustained campaign against progressives. In my view, though, you're gonna have that anyway, so you might as well force the vote. That's my
no,
view.
yeah, you
Because
might
you're
as
gonna
well.
have this,
Exactly. No, I
you know.
100% agree. I
So
just
this is
don't
happening
think, yeah, I
either.
just don't think you would get the support that you would think. I don't think people will be that passionate about this part of it because it will be hard to explain to it just because the media will be so against it. So in such a short period of time, I just don't think it would have had the
Yeah,
consequences and the
again,
reactions.
I completely agree with you, and I'll add that even if they did, they couldn't do anything. So
Yeah.
what's the point?
But okay, I mean, I don't know if you have much else, but one thing that I wanted to say, like before I forget, is if I was American and as a leftist in the States, I would prioritize and think that Medicare for all and public health care is perhaps like the most important issue to focus on in the States domestically, and somehow to pass that over time and have a longer sustained strategy. And I think initially the strategy was through Bernie Sanders, but now since Bernie Sanders is gone, I don't know who, I definitely don't have the ideas or what, but another slightly long term, 5 to 10 years or whatever, some kind of plan with objective and momentum should put in place. And this forced the vote thing, definitely, I don't think it even made it to the activist circles. It didn't even make it to the wider progressive media, I would say. It was very much focused within a certain part of the progressive media, and that was it.
Yeah, no, you're pretty much correct. I would say it got the whole progressive movement did in a way cover it and paid attention to it, but no, it didn't break out in any major way because AOC had to go on Intercept and gave that apologetic interview. But yeah, I don't know about I think America is just such a large country with such a complicated system that I think it would be tough for me to comment in terms of prioritizing.
Yeah, but I mean, healthcare, free
Yeah.
healthcare, I can just imagine just how crazy it is, if you don't have healthcare and then you have to make the kind of decisions of going to the hospital and not going to the hospital. I mean, it's just such a ridiculous thing for people to have to think about. But yeah, but the whole thing of coronavirus, I mean, if everything else in the States, I mean, Brazil has free healthcare, public healthcare, UK has public healthcare, Italy has public healthcare, and all these countries are, just not doing as bad as the
Yeah.
US, but they're not far behind.
Well, I have some debates there. We have to do a debate on best medical system at some point.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Okay. All right, Sam. So I don't have much else on my side, but before moving on to the comments, there's just one thing that kept on coming up, and I don't really even know too much what it's about, so I couldn't comment. But the whole PayGo thing. Do you know anything about that, or maybe all our
Yeah.
listeners and viewers can? Okay, why don't you go ahead and tell me a little bit about
I mean,
it?
to be honest, this is not something I'm an expert on. So some of our viewers and commentators are, to be honest, they get, yeah, they know a lot more than I do.
Yeah.
But PayGo, as far as I know, is a system. It was a law that I think Democrats themselves may have passed, that you have to, like, if you want to add a new government program, for example, to help the kids with something, you have to say how you pay for it, right? So you're going to say these taxes are going to go up, and then you can do it. You have to basically justify any. It's basically one. It was one of those laws that deficit hawks brought about to stop any increase in government spending. And from what I understand, in the latest budget, the progressive have managed to get exemptions from PAYGO for health and couple of other issues, so they can be deal with money wouldn't be a concern on these issues. But PAYGO is basically you have to show and explain how you pay for a new federal government plan.
Okay, I get it. And then so Sam, Seder, and Brianna, and I guess this did happen in reality, is that was a demand put up, that was an ask put up to Nancy Pelosi in exchange for votes to get rid of PAYGO, or was it just a suggestion?
No, nobody knows what happened in the back room deals, but it's been a demand from the progressive left for a very long time to get rid of PAYGO as a whole. But it seems that in these backdoor negotiation and stuff, they only managed to get a few exemptions. And this was something that was touted as a victory by Bernie Sanders and AOC. I think she talks about it even in the Intercept interview, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, all right, brilliant. Thank you.
No, but I think when I saw Jimmy talk about it, he was saying that those exemptions for PAYGO would have happened anyway, or it's very little. It's very, it's not a big win for us.
Yeah, I see. Okay, all right. Let's get going through some of these comments. So the first comments that we're going to look at very quickly, we've already talked about them, are comments actually left in our videos. And you actually understand these and explain better. So I think this one, so you've seen it, right? This one, the person explains that, go ahead, go explain that they would have had to vote for Republicans specifically, or not voted at all for Republican to have been nominated, right? If they would have voted for another Democrat, then it would have just kept on going until someone has the majority of votes. Right? More or less?
Exactly. Yeah. First, let's give a big shout out to Evold Bracco for her fantastic his fantastic, research skills and knowledge on the issue, because I watched so many videos on YouTube and nobody could explain it to me, but he did finally. What you need is a simple majority, but by votes cast by name, right? So that means that I forget what's the exact number. Let's just say 50 for the sake of argument, right? Out of 100. So if you get 50, so if you get more votes than the other person, you win. But the votes need to be cast by name. So if progressive Democrats abstain, right, enough of them abstain, then Kevin McCarthy could become the next speaker, right? If they don't vote for anyone. But progressives weren't planning to abstain. They were planning to vote for Hakeem Jeffries or for Barbara Lee, perhaps, right? And by the way, both people said, we don't want your vote. We support Nancy Pelosi, right? They could have done that. That's at their discretion. And in that case, nobody would have reached the simple majority, because there are not enough Republicans to reach simple majority for them, right? And then basically would have meant that further negotiations and conflict within the party, shifting of alliances, that would have led to either a new leader or Pelosi giving some concessions to this side or to that side, that type of thing. That's what would have happened if she didn't reach simple majority. Other scenario that Kevin McCarthy could have become the leader was that a significant, let's say about 10 or 20 Democrats vote with Republicans for him. But that scenario is extremely, I think it's just, so the people like Cenk Uygur and others who have argued that it's possible, like Sam Saagar mentioned in that debate, he thinks it may have happened. It's extremely unlikely, because progressives were not saying that you should abstain from the vote. Yeah. They were saying that you should vote for somebody else, cast by name, as it's technically called, and it was like neither progressives nor any other Democrats would have gone to voted for Kevin McCarthy. What if they mean that there is a significant number of right-wing Democrats that would have voted for Kevin McCarthy to become the leader? Then I think that's a whole different debate about the fact that should a party which has two wings that are so opposite of each other even exist, that some of them would vote for Kevin McCarthy to, some of the right wing of the party because, they would be fed up with the gridlock in the Congress or whatever. So, yeah, I think the arguments basically, so I think Ewald Bracco helped us to clarify that the arguments that, the force the vote may have handed the speakership to a Republican, he or she helped us to clarify that it's not possible, or it was extremely, 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 extremely unlikely.
Yeah, no. Perfect. Okay, thank you for recapping that like this. So, do you have the next one under your eyes too? The one by Stephen Sray? So this one was left just like yesterday. So I believe this person is also saying the same thing, right? Oh, I haven't read this. But yeah, and they're also referring to the same article that explains it. But yeah, he says the only way a Republican could become speaker in this new Congress would have required Dems to vote for a specific Republican, so option 1, or Dems to not vote at all, which will lower the numbers of received votes to claim a majority. So at the very least, he goes on saying that forced the vote could have yielded a different speaker other than Nancy, as she has proven to be a huge roadblock to change. Well, that's not at the very least. That would have been a huge accomplishment if they went through that. But yeah, I think Stephen is.
No, but you may get somebody just like Nancy Pelosi or worse. But
that's true.
But I would
true,
argue
it's not like
the next person. Yeah, but the next person would come to power knowing that somebody like him or her, Nancy Pelosi, was outset because she never compromised. She never gave anything to the left. So, that would have a psychological effect on, even if you're a right-winger, you might be more open to compromise.
Yeah, no. Very, very good. So I think it's more than at least. I think the bare minimum that some people have argued is that then, it'd be on paper who is for and who is against Medicare for all. There'll be record on it. That's kind of at least the... Okay, but let's...
Yeah, I have a major disagreement with that argument, quickly, because they wouldn't have... it's just because it's... I mean, at the time, we all thought that Senate would be in the hand of Republicans, so they wouldn't mind just voting for somebody that Biden is going to veto.
Yeah.
As long as they're sure Biden is going to veto it.
Okay, so now let's move on to the comments made under the debate, okay? On the Bad Fate podcast. So do you have the first one? I'm going to start.
I haven't read any.
Okay, I'm going to start from here. You don't have to prepare. No. It's the one that starts with Cenk from Jacques Zai. Do you have that one under your eyes? Okay. So it says, so this is Cenk apparently like talking to Anna. Anna, get in here. Brianna Jo Gray just called us a major player. This was so funny. So I think it's in reference to, Brianna saying you didn't do it and the Young Turks weren't involved. So, we missed out on a big chunk of the progressives. And I think she thinks that maybe Young Turks might have,
Young Turks is the biggest so-called progressive, outlet. And a lot of people that later on, Jimmy Dore included, that don't agree with Young Turks started from there. So I get it. It's
but I think if you put the number of views and subscribers together and consistent number of views on issues, Kyle Kulinski is right up there, because the Young Turks can go from like getting 30,000 on something important to suddenly 1 million, like their next viral video. But Kyle Kulinski has this like steady, often like 70 to 200,000 always views. And so yeah, he's another huge person who put his name out there. So if you go on their website, and which is mentioned all the time, forced to vote. But he wasn't that. Yeah.
And Cenk used to be if I'm not mistaken, MSNBC or NBC host, and he does go on CNN. He had a good relationship with, by the way, condolences to everyone. Larry King passed away because of COVID. And
Oh, the
yeah, he had a
COVID.
good relationship with Larry King. Their interviews are quite interesting. So he had a national profile of
Yeah.
some kind. Certainly more than Virgil Texas and Brianna. Although Brianna Greyjoy was the campaign
Hmm.
communicator for Bernie Sanders, I forget.
Yeah, it's pretty huge. Okay, let's go to the next one. Um, I kind of agree with this. So Rondo says first hour was pretty much arguing in a circle. That's kind of the impression that I
Yeah,
got. Uh, okay. We're getting to the funny
makes
parts.
sense.
So this one says,
Yeah.
Virgil, were you going for a Christopher Hitchens vibe in this debate?
Because
Man,
of
it
the
looked
cigarette type.
too funny. Jim Kirby says, forced to vote was a good idea, but it turned in Jimmy versus TYT and it overshadowed the idea. With Francesca in the middle, steering things up. What do you actually think of Francesca? We never discussed her, and I didn't see her quite doing this.
I'm not sure who she is.
Oh,
Sorry
she's on the
about
Young
that.
Turks
Is
sometimes,
she
but
the is she the comedian type
yeah,
girl that
yeah,
with short hair?
yeah,
She kind of like hipster. Or yeah.
yeah,
I think I didn't know she. I have no idea how she commented on the issue.
yeah.
So
I didn't
whatever
see
I
that
say is that
either. And then it goes on saying, but
she
I'm
goes. She's in. Sorry.
yeah, no, go ahead.
No. She goes on. There's a British show I always talk about, Novara Media, and she went on there recently. That came to my mind. But yeah, she seems like an interesting character, so I hope it
Oh,
was
for sure. And
good.
she does a lot of things. I mean, I haven't heard her talk about here, but I first discovered on Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera English used to do this short YouTube videos on Facebook like 5 years ago. She was there. Okay, a person goes on saying, but I'm glad Sam and Bree did this and hope this leads into them being friends again. I would like to see Bree talk with the other haters on Forced to Vote. I don't know if they were friends before, but it doesn't seem like. I think another comment, we can comment on this about their friendship and how it goes, but I don't know. I felt like they did, yeah.
Yeah, I think this person, I mean, I'm not, no offense, but it's just like went very personal. And yeah, I don't know, were they friends before? Did they
I
break up?
didn't
What
get this
happened?
impression that they're gonna be friends after this.
Yeah, the personal dramas of the two.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this one,
Anyway,
Jaden says Virgil sipping whiskey and vaping during the debate is literally me. Okay, I thought it was iced tea. It had too much foam. There was no way he was sipping on whiskey.
I really, to be honest, I really listen to the debates while
Uh,
like doing other stuff,
yeah, no, I
like with
same too.
headphones.
But
So
I
I
saw
don't
his
know,
glass
but
once.
yeah, and he didn't get drunk by then, so
No,
I
not at
doubt it
all.
was
I
whiskey.
think it was iced tea. The next one, maybe you can understand this. Bearded Jaeger says Virgil Texas looked like he wandered into this from a Wes Anderson set. Do you know who that is?
That definitely. Shout out to Bearded Jaeger because complete.
I don't get that
You know,
reference.
have you seen Royal Tenenbaums?
No.
Grand Budapest Hotel. Grand
Yes.
Budapest Hotel is a
Yes.
that's
A few years ago.
that's a
Okay.
everything is everything is symmetrical. People are very
Okay. Yeah.
French
Yeah. Yeah.
looking, and everybody's
Ah.
smoking, and
Okay.
everybody's very calm, and
Yeah.
but definitely
I see.
that's a great shout. I wish I
Yeah.
came up with that.
That's a funny one. He
Yeah,
got
anyways,
94 likes for his efforts. Okay, the next one.
7.
Yeah, Chantal Legal. Jimmy, he lives rent free in Seder's head. It does seem like it does seem
That's a
like
good
it's the case. That's hilarious. Okay, Marco Salcedo. I just came back to rewatch this. Okay. I just came back to rewatch this after Sam said he was admonished for 3 hours, and he definitely was not. In fact, he was dismissive towards every point Bree made. Also, who is that
Uh-huh.
lady that at the end of the video that comes over to peg Virgil? Okay, forget about that last part. But okay, here's my impressions.
I don't.
Actually, I felt like he
Wait,
wasn't
just
cutting her off, and she wasn't bad. They were having a heated argument, I would say. They were quite hostile towards each other, and beyond not agreeing with the subject, I would say it perhaps even seemed that personally they don't agree on like a lot of other things, or they don't get good, I don't know, energies and vibes. So I would just say that they seem like two people who kind of don't like each other having a heated debate. But I think besides that, they stuck to the rules as fairly as people could in an argument, I thought, a debate.
I think with the snide comments, I actually meant what this person in the comments said. He was very dismissive.
But he's saying no. Oh, yeah, okay,
opinion.
yeah, sorry, yeah, my bad, yeah.
He was very expensive.
Yeah, that's
She was, and I think that led to her becoming angry and somewhat animated, and yeah, like not perhaps as pleasant of debate. But overall, I think it was one of the more pleasant debates and more substantial debates I've seen, because it was between, they knew majority of the stuff they were talking about. They knew what it was. And I think it was a good debate.
I wish Virgil would have
controversial.
Yeah, no, but I wish Virgil would have actually intervened more often, because when he did really bring it back to like a specific issue and being like, do you agree with this or not? So I thought he could have intervened more. He would have also had more a better time if he just like intervened more. He was 3 hours of just chilling there.
I think he this is as good of a time as he can have. So yeah,
maybe
in that mood.
Okay, let's go. Okay. Lekim Nina says, this is one of the most depressing things I've seen in months. It's a grand display of how powerless we are, such at any time it looks like there's a tiny window of opportunity to maybe change something. We're so freaked out about which little thing is going to derail it that we're ready to beat the shit out of each other over who's going to ruin opportunity. So I don't really agree with that take. I feel like
censor yourself, huh?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I don't want bots to detect me. But I think if you don't agree with an issue, you don't have to unite. You just should try to make the best arguments and leave the person's character out as much as possible. But just because a leftist suggests an idea doesn't mean everybody has to unite over it if you don't agree with the strategy and how good it is, or the idea, or whatever. Next one. Okay, this one got 250 likes. Danny Taro says, at this point, I'm willing to sacrifice Medicare for all versus M4V, which is microphone for Virgil. Because
I don't get this.
Because his microphone looks like it's, I don't know, from God knows when. And
100 years old?
Yeah, I think people had issues with his audio or something. But
because to be honest, I can't really talk in a microphone from 2012. I think.
Yeah. Well, we just started. Okay, this one. Okay. Some lefties supported forced to vote, others didn't. But we all agree Virgil having a house phone is ridiculous. Did you hear that part? Man, it better not have been his house phone. It better have been like when you call someone from downstairs, I forgot the word. But anyway.
But
if he had a telephone that loud
this day and age,
in his loud while you do podcasts for a living. I couldn't believe that. That was too funny. Okay, one more.
And I love how nobody even mentioned
it. Yeah, and no, Bree gets fed up at one point. It's like, let me mute him. I don't know why he wasn't on mute. And then, okay, this one actually got 805 likes. Rocket City Rocker says, Virgil tags us through this entire video. Looks like he's being forced to watch a video of his dad taking a shower. Man, what else is the poor guy supposed to do?
Yeah, he's just like,
man, that's why like moderators talk a lot in debates, because they get bored too. You want to get in there as well.
Get in.
Okay, that was it. Okay, those were great. That was really fun.
Oh, what about, I got another one you sent me.
Read it out. Which one is it?
We need a mass movement.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that one, because that one's just...
I personally completely disagree with.
Oh, really?
I prefer a few selected people in positions of power doing a coup d'etat or something.
Okay. On that note, we'll move on to our next video, but we'll come back to these kind of discussions, actually. All right, Sam. So that little forced to vote conversation and the comments were super fun. But okay, let's move on to our second story. So this caught my eye yesterday, and apparently two police officers who had responded to the Capitol riot have committed suicide since then. So CNN reported that the acting Metropolitan Police Chief has told the House Appropriations Committee that two police officers have died by suicide since responding to the Capitol riot. So Politico actually had the exact quotes from the person. Apparently, I don't know how they obtained it because this was behind closed door, but he says that they took their lives in the aftermath of that battle. So, I mean, this is like... Go ahead.
Does it say if these are the police that got run over by the crowd or the police officers that came later on to clean up?
No, it doesn't say it. So it says, okay, it says that apparently two different types of police responded or something like that. And anyway, two types of police, each had one of their officers commit suicide. That's all I know when it comes to this. But there really wasn't much information on this out there. That was it. And like my initial thoughts were, I mean, of course, with these officers and their families, and that's horrific. But this should really not be politicized. I mean, there's no proof or no evidence shown that this is in some way related. And this is how it's presented in a way that, oh, perhaps it's related to these riots. But I mean, this is something that should not be done. There's already so much. If you want to impeach Trump, there's already a lot out there. If you can't do it without, no need to start making up stuff and adding it. Now, as I said, we don't know. Maybe this is in some way related, but I think like the first serious thing that should be done is some kind of internal investigation and not politicizing these suicides.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I don't see the causal relationship between the riots and police committing suicide unless there was very extreme circumstances. I have no idea. Maybe they were injured in a significant way.
I don't think so because
from what I understand from statistics, but this may be from a few years ago. This is not something I researched. But suicide among white male, does it say if they're white male or African American?
That's a very good point.
But among middle-aged men, it's growing and it's at all-time highs, I believe. And suicide among cops, I think even in the UK, is quite high, as well as in America. Mm-hmm. So, I'm not saying that, by the way, this is completely unrelated to riots, but that just seems, I don't know, I just cannot imagine how that led to that. But
no, exactly.
Maybe it did, and it's tragedy nonetheless.
And when I was trying to cut you off, it was because you said maybe there's that with injuries and all that. So I'm just going to mention the injuries. But yeah, I mean, definitely a real serious investigation should be carried out here and not politicizing it. But the only other information that came out of this meeting apparently was in Politico. So the officer, so the same chief, this is what he said. He says the Capitol Police Board first denied a request on January 4th for additional support from the National Guard. It wasn't until the building was overrun by the pro-Trump mob that the panel relented an hour after another plea was made. So I guess he documented a few requests for extra help that were denied. And he says about 850 police officers responded to the riot and 65 members were injured in total. And I believe there's been a total of 5 deaths, which still include the woman, 2 police officers who passed away, I guess, at the riot or the day after due to the injuries, and these 2 last officers, I guess, due to suicide. But yes, any final thoughts? I mean, impeachment is coming up soon, right? If I'm not mistaken. So that's why this story, I was like, they're trying to make something out of something that is very sad and a very sad story, but probably not related to, I don't know, who knows, to the riot. But yeah, anything on the impeachments and all that?
To be honest, not really, not at the moment, but I doubt he is going to get impeached, first of all, because I don't think enough Republicans will vote for it. And second of all, yeah, politicians, they use anything to maximize their
Yeah.
pressure on the other side. So I suppose.
I mean, their first impeachment effort was really pathetic and it was stupid. But this one, I can see, who knows, maybe they'll win. Maybe they'll
I
manage to get him
they
impeached.
need they need, I think, 10 or 15 senators to vote. I don't know. I
And
doubt it.
apparently some Republicans already, slowing down with their criticisms of Trump and everything. Time for them to move on in a different way than how the Democrats want to.
It's not a good marketing strategy.
Yeah. But okay, let's keep on talking about the states. But Sam, you have the next story, and which is apparently based on some reports, so I'm not sure what, that are saying that maybe the Biden administration has told the Emiratis and the Saudis that that America will not be selling weapons to them, which I have a very hard time to believe, of course.
No, this seems to be actually official policy. So
Okay.
this is not some rumor or anything. It was Wall Street Journal reported
You
that
believe those guys?
no. I mean, this was
Joking,
I'm
man.
not. I can't. From the articles I'm reading, I can't say if it was an executive order or something else, but it feels like it was an executive order. But anyway, the news is the Biden administration has paused arms sales to Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates as it conducts a wider review of agreements worth billions of dollars made by the Trump administration. Sources familiar with the matter told CNN. I just read that from CNN. Secretary of State Tony Blinken confirmed pending arms sales are under review, as is typical at the start of a new administration. So I like to clarify that we shouldn't make too much out of this. The arms sales. If I was a betting man, I would have bet all I have that the arms sales are gonna go through, because the real government of America is Lockheed Martin, and Boeing, not the administration. But he said to make sure that what is being considered is something that advances our strategic objectives and advances our foreign policy. So I think this is a typical,
Procedural.
news that politicians put out there to improve their standing, improve their brand, improve their popularity. But I doubt it's going to lead to actual, maybe something gets delayed or something. But I think
Yeah.
the weapons are going to be sold.
I mean, Trump has already made all these promises to them too, in addition to that. I mean, behind the deals, making the deals with Israel and all that, was the thought that they could buy more
Not so
weapons.
much behind the doors, even just like literally in
Yeah.
open.
That was right up there. But we shall see. I haven't. Yeah, I haven't. Have you read much about his foreign policy? I mean, we all kind of know what Biden and that kind of ideology that's behind him, what they want to do. But anything specific about his foreign policy that you've read or heard that's caught your attention?
So far, he's putting a lot of people from Obama's team that negotiated the Iran deal. A lot of those people are being put in place. The new head of CIA is one of them. Tony Blinken was a big part of Iran nuclear deal. However, this should not be mistaken. I don't want to give the impression that they are doves. Tony Blinken, I think, was one of the people who pushed for the Libyan intervention, which led to one of the worst cases of failed states we've seen in recent years, up there with Syria and Iraq. And generally speaking, they're your typical good imperial managers, as I think as Gore Vidal would have probably put it. Competent strategic managers. They're not gonna change things, and I think they're generally more concerned with China than they are with Middle East, so to speak. But yeah, and by the way, for now they're talking both sides of their mouth. One
Yeah.
day they're positive about the Iran nuclear deal and coming back. Another day they're a bit more negative about it. So who knows? Who knows? Very much. What we should expect, to be honest, is complete continuation of Obama's foreign policy in a way.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And well, you were just mentioning these people, but and I saw that John Kerry though he has a new assignment now. He's on the climate change, climate change team.
Probably the most useless job in the company.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would really be interested for some kind of analysis, whether if it's scientific or not even scientific, maybe some reporting that shows. So, what was the damage caused by Donald Trump removing the United States from the Paris Agreement? So, what damage that really caused? Did it change anything in any way, especially that now they're back, you know?
I think it may have caused some damage, but to be honest, the worst thing he did was the deregulation of chemicals and waste that led to some companies dumping their the reduction of testing, that type of thing. I think those damages are far more far-reaching, really.
No,
But
100%.
I would imagine probably some projects that could have started earlier because of Paris Agreement or something, they've been delayed, that type of thing. Again, yeah, that's a good point. We should look into reports on that.
All right, Sam, you ready for our next story? Shall we?
Sure, of course.
Okay, so this story, I saw that Kulinski made a video on it, and so did Saagar from The Hill. And it's pretty much about, so one of the headlines that also covered this story, they wrote that Reddit users create demand for GameStop stock just to screw over billionaires. So I wanted to use this story to talk about Reddit and Twitter more generally, and how Reddit is really the polar opposite of Twitter, which I hate. But first, let's just say what this specific news is about. But really, if you want to know more, I would really recommend checking out Kulinski. He covers this beautifully. But pretty much on Reddit, a bunch of Reddit users who are into investments, stocks, finance, and understand this, they realized that around 80%, and really this is the most that I know, like, don't ask me any questions, okay? Around 80% of the stocks for this particular company, which is called GameStop, I guess the gaming company, are owned in those type of stocks, whatever, where investors are betting that their value goes down. So all the money that is there to be made is on
shorting.
Yeah, exactly. Investors taking this risk idea that somehow, I don't know how they help it to go down, but in any case, that the value is going to drop, and they've bet on this and they're going to make money. But all these people on Reddit, they went and bought all these stocks, so the price went up. So I guess these hedge fund companies and individuals and others who had stocks, who were betting on the stock to go down, they lost a lot of money, even though the stock went up, which is counterintuitive, which had me confused at first. Okay, that's the extent of my understanding on this. Do you want to add a bit more, Sam?
To be honest, I didn't read this story as as much details as you did, but I highly recommend watching the movie Big Short for anyone who wants to understand these type of things. But yeah, shorting is basically I bet that, for example, the stock of Apple is gonna go down in the next few days, and if it doesn't, then I'll lose my bet. If it does go down to what I said, then I gain a certain amount. So I assume these people coordinated through Reddit to buy stocks and that way those who are shorting it are gonna lose their money, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen The Big Short?
Yes, I have.
Or any of our viewers, Christian Bale's character was that character who was shorting against the housing market because he knew housing market is going to crash, and everybody was like, "You're crazy" and all that.
You're so right. I forgot that was I remember watching a movie. I really liked it, but yeah, I forgot that was the exact thing that he was doing. But yeah, so like I mentioned, I just wanted to talk about Reddit a bit generally and how much Twitter sucks. But do you have anything? I just rant about how much Twitter sucks. But do you have anything else about the finance and just how stupid this is? And I mean, it's just straight up betting, which is,
to be honest, Yeah, this is like complete, what they call it, casino,
Yeah.
casino economy or something. It's bad, but I mean, I saw the bit on Bloomberg. I think that there's that guy who's very animated and he always gets angry. But he did a great interview with one of the billionaires who, at the moment of his desperation, tried to connect the, Reddit to Russian spies or, foreign powers and all that. But even the Bloomberg guy was, because even though we
Yeah.
hate, typically the left hates the capitalist, pure capitalists, but these pure capitalists are, at least they believe in free market, and they were smart enough to coordinate, they win the money, right?
Yeah.
And the billionaires were now calling for government regulation to basically they just want to basically, they believe in free market as long as it's free
Yeah.
for them, but not so much for others.
No, I mean, it's in the Rising, I think, where I saw that. So Saagar pulls a few of these interviews that are done here and there. And I mean, these billionaires, there's how desperate they suddenly are for regulation. And then, yeah, that connection that this could be, that this could be foreign. Oh my God, foreign organized. To what? For a few stocks at GameStop? Okay, that's number one agenda at Kremlin. Bring out this, bring down
Kremlin.
this video
Putin
game.
is worried sick about GameStop.
He can't finish
What
the
happened
last
to
level or
GameStop?
something,
Oh.
so he swore revenge on the company. It turned off while he was playing online the other day. Okay, so
He went to New York and loved the company, so he tried to avoid, just buying the stock through Reddit.
True, the poor guy is making the value of this company go up, and these guys are complaining. Jesus, man, that's too funny. But yeah, so are you familiar with Reddit? I've told you about it a few times. Have you ever been on it?
Yeah, I've been trying to use it a lot more since you've promoted it to me. I find it somewhat hard and confusing because it's topic based and it's people talking, and I don't know why is that high, why is that low, and all that. But yeah, it's a good one. I use it for whenever you have asking questions like Quora.com type of thing. I a lot of times when I'm looking for something and I Google it, Reddit comes up, especially media stuff.
No, exactly. I mean, I think the activity level of users and the number of users that they have is just so high. And then Twitter is all about, shitting and dunking on people with like a few words, just like making them look bad. I told you, blah, blah, blah. Whereas Reddit, of course, there are people who do that, but the system is built in a different way, and you actually have long comments and long interactions. That is just literally the polar opposite. Like in Reddit, nobody knows who you are. You don't even have a photo of yourself, your random name. Whereas Twitter, everybody, like most people, I mean, it's all about your name. Oh, I got 2 likes and a retweet from X or Y. It's all about like who it is and, getting recognition for something that you've said to bring someone down. And just Reddit is just literally the polar opposite. And I feel like an interesting segment of the of society lives on Reddit and on different subreddits. But I've come to like it, but even I don't understand in some of the subreddits. And they have different cultures from one subreddit to another, what you can do, what you cannot do. I mean, you might post a video and you'll take it off and you'll get a warning as if you just posted like the worst thing ever. And then they're like, rule the subreddit, like read the subreddit rule, number 1, no videos. Like, okay, how was I supposed to know? But yeah, I really like Reddit. There's a lot of stuff there. It's also good for reading the news if you follow like their big news channels and their big news subreddits, but the total opposite. And then on Twitter, and I mean the shenanigans on Twitter continue. So the other day on the Rising, they showed that how Twitter is introducing this new fact-checking feature. And it's a straight up joke. I mean, you saw the video, right, Sam? Play the video for our audience.
Yeah.
Right now.
watch system.
Yeah.
Bird watch.
What do you
We
make
watch
of
the
that?
birds.
What do
It's,
you make?
same. I think Twitter made a mistake, even compromising Twitter and Facebook compromising a little against these things. They should stand their ground and saying that telephone company is not responsible for terrorism or bullshit. That is, you think flat earthers don't talk on the phone or
Yeah.
something? So this is a very simple freedom of speech issue. As long as you don't like defame. There are defamation, libel laws, and security laws that say, as long as you don't incite people to cause violence and all that, there are legal channels for those things to
Yeah.
be processed. So all of this is bullshit. All of this is, in my view, disgusting, and they don't really it's all bullshit.
Man, but I'm surprised Twitter still exists. I mean, they're like caricature of a company now. I feel like I just find that they're
news,
badly run.
For news,
I mean, it blows my mind. I mean, just look at this
efficient
ad that they just made. It's like ridiculous. It's horrible, and they're like completely like they'll do anything that elite Democrats say now. I mean, I don't understand why they surrendered themselves so much to the Democrats.
Well, because they don't want to get taxed. That's why. Or nationalized. That's really it, really. That's why. As long as they keep them off their backs in terms of taxes and nationalization, whatever, they don't give a shit about freedom of speech or anything for that matter.
I don't know. In terms of even functionality, like to me, Twitter is like offers the least comparing to all the other platforms.
Man, I must say it is more functional than Reddit. I know I haven't used Reddit app that much, but Jesus Christ, like Reddit website, I don't know. It's not.
No,
really
I mean like functional. Yeah,
therefore.
as in like the services that it provide. Like, what is it like? I don't understand. I don't see any value that it brings. I mean the functionality, just on the pure functionality. I don't know. I'm surprised that it's still used, and it's used.
News. It's great for news share.
Yeah, it's okay for that, and it's a great platform if you're already a famous person. I find that if you're a famous person, it gives you a really good platform to just say whatever you want, whenever, and for everybody to see it. I mean, even easier than putting out press releases or whatnot.
Exactly. That's a functionality of it.
But okay, shall we move on to our last story, which is about coronavirus? Definitely. We're gonna kind of have not two interpretations, but you're gonna talk about a bit more about the Brexit and perhaps EU-UK relation to it, and I'm gonna talk more about like availability of supplies of vaccine globally. But let's first tell everybody what the story is about. So the Guardian has should I go ahead?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the Guardian has reported that Belgian regulators have launched an investigation into AstraZeneca. So that's the company with Oxford. They've made the vaccine. Into AstraZeneca's coronavirus vaccine production site near Brussels on the request of the European Mission. A first visit by officials from the Belgian Federal Medicines Agency was completed on Wednesday. Samples and records were taken from the plant, and a further inspection of the facility is expected in the coming days. So this investigation was requested by the EU's executive branch due to doubts over AstraZeneca's explanation of an unexpected shortfall in vaccine deliveries to the UA. They have said that they will only be able to deliver a quarter of the EU's 100 million doses that they were expected to receive by March, so only a quarter of that. That's pretty much all of it there. So yeah, the Europeans are not happy that they're not going to receive pretty much the 100 million doses that they've promised, that they've been promised from Oxford. Now they're only saying a quarter of that, and even that I doubt. So I just wanted to ask, what do you make of this? What are your takes before I'll talk a little bit more about vaccine supplies after?
No, sure. First of all, I'd like to point out this is another great example of the efficiency of the private companies out there. So, they always talk about inefficiency within governments and stuff. I can see how efficient and, on their words, the big private companies are.
Can I
But
actually
that's
interrupt you right there?
that's
Sorry that
another.
you said that. It's so
Yeah.
funny. So Moderna vaccine in the States is under Operation Warp Speed. The production, supply, all of this hasn't gone well. Pfizer is not with Operation Warp Speed. The production, distribution is not going well. So both of them, yeah, public and private,
So,
seem to
so
have
yeah,
same
maybe the
limitation.
problem is corruption wherever it is, you know. But yeah, whatever. Um, but in terms of, yeah, it's quite interesting because I love how European hypocrisy gets illuminated in these times when they announced a few days ago that they will not allow exports of COVAX vaccines if there are because of there hasn't been as much delivered to the EU. So just they used to make fun of Trump for his protectionist policies. Oh, he wants to buy up all the vaccines. He tried to do that. He tried to do this. Now they're doing exact same thing when they have the chance. So that's one thing. And then Belgium sending things, and this was more to do with media, to be honest. The way Guardian and a couple of other outlets covered it was that you see now that Brexit has happened, Belgians are sending checking AstraZeneca if they're going to the UK, if they're being diverted somewhere else. So, like if it wasn't, I'm sure if UK was still in the Europe, everybody would be vaccinated by now. That's just hysteria they like to create around the EU-UK relationship. That really pissed me off. And the hypocrisy of the EU. That's, to be honest, my takes on the issue.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that there's actually nothing wrong. I think it's fine if countries right now, even European countries, are trying to secure vaccines for their own population. But yeah, absolute hypocrisy,
But
of
don't
course.
don't go
That's for
around
sure. Yeah.
criticizing others or. Uh,
But so yeah, I mean, I wanted to do this story last week and I was like, why would I do it? But now, because I didn't want to shit on WHO for no reason. But so the chief of WHO came out last
I
week
do.
and and he said that, rich countries should not hoard vaccines. And he went on to say, it's like, quote, I need to be blunt, the world is on the brink of a catastrophic moral failure, and the price of this failure will be paid with the lives and livelihoods in the world's poorest countries. So first, I hate the things like a moral failure, it's so like abstract, like what you talking about exactly. But at the same time, I was like, okay, if I'm having good faith, I can say that you're foreseeing the future, and then because you're talking about the future, you're saying that it'll be a moral failure and you're not getting more precise. Because right
Mm,
now, let's be honest, there are no vaccines. I mean, stories are coming out every single day. Everywhere they're behind vaccine production and distribution and vaccinating the population. I mean, UK is a little bit ahead, and that's it. I mean, in Europe, they're so far behind. So of course, I don't think of course, vaccines are not going, unfortunately, to people
oh,
in
oh,
developing countries right now, and a lot of them. And okay, go on, yeah.
let's make an exception. There is a state in US, a Republican state. I keep forgetting. I think it's South Carolina or somewhere. They didn't have as many elderlies, or for some reason they didn't accept that Pfizer should do the thing, do the distribution, and they did it themselves. And this is something I saw on the Hill, by the way. So that's why it just came to my. I'm not sure about the details, but they were far more successful than other states where they allowed Pfizer and their operation to distribute the vaccine. So maybe there are more successful cases out there, but yes, you're right. Generally speaking, everywhere it's been a
But the
mess.
supplies are low. I mean, there are no supplies. Even in the
Yeah.
richest countries, in the UAE, I know this fact. So UAE have actually approved both Pfizer and a Chinese vaccine. And now they've stopped
Hmm.
administrating the Pfizer vaccine to anybody who hasn't already received the first dose for at least a month, because their supplies are also low and they've probably outbid everybody to be the first ones. But they also have the Chinese vaccine. And I mean, right now, it looks like even the Chinese can't produce enough of their vaccine, because I mean, Brazil depends on it, all these countries. And I think the Europeans are, of course, way too proud right now to go ask Chinese for vaccine. But yeah, anyway, supplies are low everywhere. And although I usually agree with these kind of leftist arguments that the chief of WHO is making right now, to their defense, there are no vaccines. So rich countries are not hoarding them. And in this, like the framework that we live in, we work on the country unit. That's how we do everything. Whether you think that's good or bad, I feel like it's pushing it right now to ask countries to think differently, because he went on to say that it's not right that younger, healthier adults in rich countries are vaccinated before health workers and older people in poorer countries. I don't think that's true. So I don't know if that's happening, but from my understanding, that's not true. Maybe here and there, but you can look in the richest countries in the world. Young people are not getting vaccinated right now. So this is not true. And I mean, we operate within this country unit framework. So expecting that to change right now, I find that to be not very realistic.
No. And many people say maybe coronavirus, that type of thing, would further push the world towards a more globalized approach to issues. But then again, with this, with the economic situation and the rise of nationalism, I don't see it.
Exactly. Wishful thinking. Yeah. I mean, every country wants get their economy to open right now.
I hate WHO as much as the next guy, but I mean, at least somebody has to say this type of bullshit.
No, it's good. It's good, but I'm saying for once it's not the case.
What about the children?
But for once it's not the case. Yeah, and I mean, he said this during a meeting that was...
I heard, there are people in US and UK that are getting vaccinated that are, let's say, middle-aged or something. And, maybe there are doctors in many poor countries that are not getting vaccinated.
Yeah, so the doctor part is true. But then again...
frontline workers, whatever.
But it comes back to the supply. I mean, the supply thing... They've definitely messed it up. I mean, the whole thing of having the vaccines produced before they were approved. I mean, they made like a handful of samples? I don't know. Like that doesn't seem to be, the case. Why is like in Europe there's only one factory that's dependent on it? I mean, they're really behind right now. I don't know when it's gonna catch up. The vaccine production and supply.
I read that Germany was saying they're gonna have a tough next 10 weeks because the companies have said that the next 2 months, because of the way they are changing the production, first the production is gonna go down, but after that it's gonna increase significantly because they're actually changing the production works, and apparently they're gonna have another plant in Europe, that type of thing. I didn't read the thing with much care, but it seems like for the next 2 weeks it's going to be tough, and then the supply gonna pick up a bit.
Let's see. And then China already has like 2 different vaccines that have been approved and are ready for distribution, and so many countries behind that. India have their own vaccine, and the Russians too, huh? For folks who approved the vaccine 7 months ago, they're quite behind with the production and supply and everything.
No, they are vaccinating people. And
at what rate though?
Just at a low rate. But Iran just actually what do you say? Approved Sputnik 5 as it's okay. Nice. And they are easing lockdowns in Moscow and some other cities.
Okay, very nice. Well, I don't have anything else to add really. How about you?
No, nothing else. But hopefully we'll have some more interesting stuff. This was more of this was a very chilled session. We didn't have any breakdowns, that type of things. But that was good.
It was a fun
I enjoyed the debate talk.
Yeah.
It was like a post-game analysis. I never liked football or basketball or anything, but this is as close as to sports I have.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking of like soon we should try to like incorporate the clips like live while we watch it. So I cut the clips off, so we watch the clip, pause, react. But I can't figure out how I'm gonna do it exactly now. Maybe we'll do it for some other stuff later on. But okay, all right. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you like the content, please make sure to like and subscribe. And we'll see you in our next video.